World of Women. You may have heard of them because they are one of the most popular and well-known NFT projects in the world. They are building a thriving community that celebrates representation, inclusivity, and equality for all. And we were lucky enough as newbies to be able to connect with their co-founders, Yam and Raph, for this incredible in-depth interview that we cut into 2 parts. And this is part 2 of that conversation.
I have a question on something. I know you guys got to meet Gary in Miami, and he's like a big brother to us, essentially. And I've met him a few times and spent some time with him, and it was fantastic. But one thing he says very, very often is that 99% of projects are going to fail. And I think about that when I talk to you guys who have just one of the most incredible projects that the NFT world has seen. What would you say, and we'll start with Raph and then Yam, to creators and artists who are like, okay, like if 99% are going to fail, then what am I doing? Like, why should I even try? Or what would you say to them, even though that may or may not come to fruition?
I think first you have to believe Gary. Maybe Gary is wrong. You don't know, but I'm more in his team on this, to be honest, because of all the inbound we receive, and not everything is incredible. A lot of those things look like copycat and don't have a specific angle, even though the cause behind, at least the one that's displayed, is valuable. I think the most important one is to say if you go for it, you have to go 100%. Otherwise, no way it's gonna work. So you have to commit yourself. You have to try to find something original that's never been done, or at least within the template of what currently works. You want to have a specific angle within that template, and then you have to believe this angle is the correct one. If you believe the angle is strong enough, it's like building a company. I'm pretty sure 99% of companies or 90% of companies just fail within a year or 6 months, or don't even get out of the wood. And it's the same here in the space. If you think your angle is strong enough, if you have done some market study, or if you believe there's really a pain point that has to be fixed within the space, I would say go for the pain point that you see and try to create a company around it. It doesn't have to be an NFT collection at one point. There are a lot of them out there. We don't know. Maybe for 2 more years there's going to be NFT collections of 10,000 stuff going out there, and it's fine. Maybe not. I have no idea about that, but find a pain point and fix it.
Absolutely.
This is going to sound like what people say in Twitter spaces. I completely agree with what you just said.
Do you?
We do that to each other all the time. It's awful.
I really do. I really do. And I also think that you should have the reasons of why you're doing whatever it is that you're doing in this space very clear, because if you're just going in and you're very unsure and you're just trying something out and you're not very convinced to yourself of what you're doing, it's not going to go anywhere. And I think it's what Raph said, you have to be in it for the long term and 100%, because if the case is that whatever it is you're doing succeeds and sells out or whatever, you're gonna have to start the work right after that. Like, that's when you're really gonna be working. And so if it's just a cash grab, I don't think that will work anymore. We're not at that stage anymore, I think.
Have there been any misconceptions about the brand or any kind of negative feedback that you guys have had to deal with, and how did you guys address it?
Not negative feedback. I mean, honestly, we've been very lucky not to have a lot of negativity in general around our brand or what we do. There has been one misconception that I have noticed, is that there's not a lot, but there's a few men that assumed that World of Women was a collection just for women. So basically that the people that buys them are just women. So they assumed that, and therefore they didn't buy World of Women because they thought it was for female collectors, which is completely not true. Like, the whole point is that yes, indeed there are women avatars, but I mean, this is a collection for anyone that shares our values and that wants the same kind of Web3 that we want and the same changes in society as well. So as long as you're in line with what we stand for, this is for you, and it doesn't matter who you are. So I think that's the only misconception that has been a little bit frustrating, but it hasn't even been like a huge thing,
Yeah. I don't think this is something that's being told, to be honest. I agree with you, Yam. And I add to that, even though the art is only women, because that's what Yam knows how to do, and it makes sense for the message, the World of Women idea is like, this Web3 space should be inclusive, but it should never be all women. That's 100% not the idea. The idea is it just should be representative of the real world, but which is not 100% women. That's why we're happy that the community, according to the stats we have and the Discord polls we did, it's like 50-50 men and women. We have like a balanced community, which is super cool. And we don't want to have 90% of women in the community. That would make for a different debate and not the best debate. So that I wanted to highlight first. Second, there is one wow that smokes, an historical cigarette, very vintage from the 60s. And some people said, oh, you shouldn't promote smoking. Okay, of course, we don't promote smoking. This is art, so this is an interpretation. That's very minor. And the last
style,
one,
okay? It's like a style
yeah,
trait.
it's style.
It's just like a vintage
Yeah.
style trait.
It's very
so don't
Audrey
kill me.
Hepburn. It's very Audrey Hepburn.
Yeah.
That is interesting. I never would have
and-
expected that.
But it's a tiny. It never happens. And the last one would be actually, I don't think anybody said that to us, but it's something I can feel because myself, I'm starting to be a bit overwhelmed by it. Is that we cannot change the whole meta of the NFTs because of the success of the collection. And nowadays you see hundreds of collections that are women centric and women avatar, and it's most likely it's linked to the success of the collection.
Sure.
So maybe people are a bit like, okay, another one of those, and we feel that it might be a small issue right now, but we're happy about that. Still, it's a good sign of the success we had, and it's also changing the space in one way.
So Heather and I, we started this podcast back in August, about a month after you released your collection. And she had a V friend, a couple of V friends. I had a World of Women and something completely random. And we decided when we met in person for the first time, why don't we just start a podcast so we could like just learn on the fly and educate people. We never expected anything to happen. And the next thing we know, we're like, we are the number one NFT podcast in the world. The downloads are through the roof. We're just doing amazing things. And the reason I'm mentioning that is because at some point you guys were a project, but Yam, you said company. We are a 7-month-old company. Raph was talking about it being a brand. At what point does a project actually transition to a brand or a company?
I think it really depends on the objectives of the founders of said project, because I think that some projects are happy with being just that, a collectible project and a collection of art pieces, and that's completely fine. But I think it really depends on what you want to do, if you want to be just a collection of art and do everything that's related to NFTs, that's great. Some people want to go further, they want to become a video game, or I don't know, do things in the metaverse, and that's great as well. I feel like there's many different things that you can do. For us, becoming a company was inevitable because this is how we felt from the beginning. And also because of the things that we wanted to achieve, this is something that we couldn't do by simply being a collection. So for us, it was just like a clear path because of the motivations that we had. And that's why Raph also says that we're a brand, because indeed there's a lot of licensing going on with the World of Women IP. And so, yeah, we do licensing agreements. But yeah, indeed, we are officially like a company because we're an actual registered company, that's why I was saying that. But I think, yeah, indeed, it really depends on what you want to do, and there's no like right path, I think.
Where did you guys learn your philosophy and just learn about business? You said you were a freelancer before and you were in tech. Like, what are you guys pulling from, and how are you guys learning how to build?
Well, basically you have to. Actually, it's not your choice. I mean, at one point, because all of a sudden you have 3,000, when we started, roughly 3,000 holders overnight that are believing in your product. So you kind of have to make it work. I mean, the projects, I believe, that don't translate into a brand or a proper company are the ones whose floor just fall down and then breaks, and then there is not much interest into building a brand out of it. But we had really no choice, and it was like, okay, well, let's go 100%. Let's commit to it, and then you really learn on the fly, on the go, like you do with your podcast. We did that, and you also see what works on the side. You get counsel from other projects that succeeded, from other people, and yeah, even from within the community. You have very strong and very powerful people within our community that can also give us tips, and we listen to the tips, and then we grow the brand from that.
When you are kind of maybe looking at other peripheral projects and you're seeing what they're doing, and then all of a sudden you start having big names, and I think you and Eva Longoria do an Instagram live, like, what are these people saying to you, about your project? And could you ever have imagine this is a conversation you would have?
Oh no, absolutely not. I honestly never thought I would do anything extraordinary in my life. Like, this is literally how I felt.
Wow.
That's just the way it is, you know. You have a shitty job, you have no money. Like, I mean, you never think you're gonna do anything with your life, really. You think you're gonna hustle and hustle until one day you're old. So no, I obviously never thought that I would speak with Eva Longoria one day and that Reese Witherspoon, who I grew up watching in her amazing rom-coms, would end up like buying my art, you know, and like supporting what I'm doing. Like there is no part of me ever in my life that even like imagined or dreamt about that because it was just not realistic. So for me, it's really unreal. Yeah, like when these things and these interactions happen, it's crazy to hear that what you're doing matters and that women, powerful women, see that this is really changing how things are evolving. So yeah, I mean, it's I don't know, like I don't know what the word is, but it's really crazy.
It's incredible. Like, I mean,
Let me
I can't even
Let me
imagine.
follow
I
up on
can't
that.
even
I'm
imagine.
glad
Go ahead,
I'm
Heather.
glad you said that because at the very beginning you said, I was just a freelancer and it wasn't like a glamorous life or anything. And I think most people listening to this can really relate to that. I know I've been in that position, Rich has been in that position, and like you have this craft and this art that's so meaningful to you. And when it's not being seen by tons of people and it doesn't feel like it's making a difference, and you wonder if you're ever going to make any money. I'm sure there's a lot of people listening who are in that position right now and they're wondering, is this NFT space for me? Is it not? And maybe just kind of at that point where you were just saying, do you have any, I guess, looking back, words you would have shared with your previous self or anyone listening who may be in that position?
You know, I think that trying something new can never be really that bad. So if you're someone, a creator that is looking into maybe discovering the NFT space and seeing if there's an opportunity there for you, I think you should totally go for it. That being said, I don't mean quit your job or whatever it is you're doing and go all in from the beginning. That would be really, really not good. But I mean by be an observer for a little while, learn about it, do some homework, and figure out if this is something that could be interesting for you. Because I'm sure that, I mean, I am biased, okay? But I am sure that this space can provide a lot of different opportunities to different people. And it doesn't have to be only NFTs either. It's just the technology behind it. So I would say try something new, learn about it, educate yourself, and see if this is for you. I mean, that's what I did. When I began this journey, I was 100% sure I would not sell anything. Like, I've always been, like, very negative with things. Like, I'd rather be disappointed than, like, from the beginning than afterwards. But then it worked because I just put the work and the hours, and I was trying my very best to make something happen out of my art and myself. But indeed, if you decide to do it, it comes with a lot of commitment and a lot of hours and a lot of personal effort that you're going to put in, and you will have to do that simultaneously while you're working in your other job. So it's not going to be easy, but
I'd like to ask both of you, is there any pressure? Well, I think this is rhetorical, but while Galaxy's coming, hopefully this year, it looks like. So the second collection, essentially, how do you feel about the project and, the expectations to kind of deliver again? Like, do you feel some pressure or what are you thinking?
yes, a lot of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it is coming sooner than you think.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of work. Raph is doing a face, but yeah, it's coming this year, Raph. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it is indeed a lot of pressure. I mean, I've had a lot of artistic work, but afterwards, like all four of us, the co-founders, we've had to talk a lot about the technical side of it and the value behind it and how this is going to be different or interesting. So yeah, I mean, it's a lot of pressure because I don't know, like it just really is.
How are you trying to make it more unique? If you're able to share anything, like what are you trying to do that's outside of the box that maybe the first time around you're like, we're not doing that again, if anything?
I mean, I can share with you what we're talking internally,
Sure.
but I don't know, Rob, do you want to answer that?
No, nothing special.
Okay.
Clandestine. All right. Well, we will all
Okay,
have
so
to
in
wait.
a nutshell, it's gonna be a boring ass collection
Perfect.
and nothing cool to it.
Got it. All right. All right. Well, we'll still make sure to let everyone know to be on the lookout for that. And with that being said, Heather, it's
Yeah.
all you.
So we have this super cool artist that we've recently become friends with, and he was a listener of the show, and he reached out and heard a little bit of his story. He began at Disney for a long time, and then he moved over to Blue Sky Studios. He's worked in children's books. I'm old. He worked on Lion King and Beauty and the Beast, and he had me at that. Really cool human. His name is Tom LeBoff. When he heard that we were doing an interview with you, he created a really cool piece for you, Yam, that he minted and turned into an NFT. And I wanted to show it to you real quick. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Let me screen share real quick.
Oh my goodness. This is so cute.
He said he had some powerful women in his life and could relate to the essence that he saw in you and your eyes, and that's what he came up with and created. So he minted that, and we'll be dropping it in your wallet.
Yeah,
So thank you to Tom. You're awesome, Tom.
And he told us to make sure he calls it Yam Aura. So we will get that to you. So hopefully you enjoy it. But it was very awesome of one of our listeners to go all out like that.
Yeah.
And we cannot thank you enough for taking the time to be with us on this show. We wish you nothing but the moon going forward, and that boring ass project. I'll be on the lookout for that boring ass project coming up.
Great. Oh, thank you so much for everything.
Appreciate y'all.